So imagine running this massive multinational organization. Like you are constantly lobbying foreign governments, managing hundreds of personnel, establishing new operational branches.
Right, and dealing with VIP donors who expect immediate results.
Exactly. Now imagine trying to do all of that without a smartphone, without email, without a modern HR department. And you are right in the middle of the gritty, chaotic 19th century industrial revolution.
It sounds totally impossible.
It really does. But today, we're taking a magnifying glass to exactly one day on the calendar to see how one historical figure actually pulled this off.
Yeah, and our sources for today provide this really fascinating framing device for this deep dive. We're zeroing in on one recurring date.
July 19th.
Right, July 19th, across several different years in the late 19th century. So we're looking at a cross-section of the life of Don Bosco, specifically spanning from 1878 to 1884.
Let's unpack this, because the mission for you, the listener, in this deep dive is to uncover what is basically a practical masterclass in leadership.
Oh, absolutely.
By slicing into this one specific day across different years, we get this surprisingly intimate, almost voyeuristic snapshot of a life.
Yeah, you really get to see the nuts and bolts.
We are going to explore how one person balances high-level diplomacy, incredibly frustrating bureaucracy, and profound emotional connections without, totally burning out.
And to truly understand what's happening in these historical notes, we really have to grasp the sheer scale of the operation he was running.
Because he wasn't just some local guy.
Right. Don Bosco wasn't just a local parish priest. He was the founder of the Salesians, and he was managing a rapidly growing religious and educational movement.
Let me pause you right there, though, because for anyone listening who isn't totally steeped in 19th century Catholic history, what exactly were the Salesians doing that made them such a big deal?
That's a great question.
Like, why were they expanding so fast?
Well, think about the backdrop here. It's the height of the Industrial Revolution in Italy. Cities like Turin are just exploding with population.
Right. Factories everywhere.
Exactly. You have massive influxes of young people moving from the countryside looking for factory work.
Yeah.
And this resulted in widespread poverty, child labor, and youth ending up in these newly built, brutal prison systems.
Wow. So it was a massive systemic social crisis.
A catastrophic one, yeah.
Yeah.
And the state was completely overwhelmed. So Don Bosco steps directly into that void. The Salesians weren't just preaching.
They were doing practical stuff.
Right, they were building trade schools, they were providing housing, they were actually negotiating employment contracts for young apprentices to prevent factory exploitation.
Oh, wow. So they were basically a massive social welfare network.
Essentially, yeah. They were running a highly effective, privately funded social welfare network that the government itself couldn't manage.
Which perfectly sets up our first July 19th snapshot. So we are jumping to the year 1881. And looking at how he managed the explosive demand for this network.
The Fienza Foundation.
Yes, the source notes focus on the Fienza Foundation. The text specifically says the Bishop of Fienza was, and I'll quote here, anxious for the Salesians to establish a presence in his diocese.
And, that word anxious reveals the entire power dynamic.
How so?
Well, the bishop has a societal crisis in his own backyard. He sees the Salesians successfully mitigating this exact same crisis in other cities, and he desperately wants that operational mechanism deployed in Fienza.
He wants their schools and their structure. It's like a highly successful modern tech startup. Every city wants a branch, right?
Exactly like that.
But let me push back on how Don Bosco handles this, because to me, it seems super counterintuitive. If a VIP like a bishop is practically begging for your help, the obvious move seems to be to drop everything, stroke his ego, and say, hey, we'll be there tomorrow.
Right, that's what most people would do.
But Don Bosco doesn't do that. He doesn't even reply himself. He has a subordinate, Father Durando, write the letter on July 19th. I mean, isn't that a massive risk?
It looks risky on the surface.
Yeah, how does ignoring a VIP not completely insult him?
Because it's not actually a dismissal. It's a highly calculated administrative deferral. If you look closely at the mechanism of Durando's letter, he assures the anxious bishop of two very specific things.
Okay, what are they?
First, he emphasizes a profound desire for harmony between the Salesians and the local diocese. Second, he promises that the superiors will, quote, prioritize Fienza when assigning personnel for the upcoming year.
I see. He's basically saying, look, we respect you, you are at the top of the waiting list, but we are not sending half-trained people right now just to appease you.
Precisely. He is protecting the quality of his entire operation. Because think about it, if Don Bosco caves to every single anxious bishop and sends unequipped personnel out there, the reputation of the Salesians just crumbles.
Right, they fail at the actual mission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by using a trusted delegate like Durando, he creates this vital buffer. The bishop gets a respectful, official commitment of priority, but Don Bosco isn't personally backed into an impossible logistical corner.
He retains total control over his resource allocation. That makes a lot of sense. He's managing the bottleneck of human capital.
Yes.
But does he always play hard to get? Because the sources give us another July 19th. This one is from 3 years earlier in 1878, where his strategy is just completely inverted.
Right, the Gastaldi meeting.
Yeah. On July 19, 1878, Don Bosco isn't sending a delegate or putting anyone on a waiting list. He is personally calling on Archbishop Gastaldi in Turin.
Right.
He's responding to a direct invitation from the prelate to discuss arrangements for a major public event. I think it was the blessing and laying of the cornerstone for the Church of Saint John the Evangelist.
Notice the change in the stakes here, though.
Yeah, it's a completely different vibe.
It is. Fidenza is an expansion opportunity in another diocese that can totally be managed by a delegate.
Yeah.
But Archbishop Gastaldi is the ecclesiastical authority in Turin.
His backyard.
Exactly. That is Don Bosco's home base. It is the absolute center of his operations. You don't send a subordinate to plan a massive public cornerstone ceremony with your local archbishop.
Oh, for sure. His personal presence is the currency there. And he spends it where it buys the most political capital.
He really understands the different levers of power. He synthesizes these two approaches flawlessly.
Yeah.
He empowers his team to handle the logistical expansion and manage demand, but he handles the high-stakes local ecclesiastical diplomacy face-to-face.
Okay, so we see him allocating personnel and managing bishops, but, funding an operation that builds trade schools and massive churches requires serious capital.
Oh, immense amounts of capital.
Which brings us to what is probably the most relatable and honestly the most frustrating snapshot in our historical ice core. Let's fast forward to July 19th, 1883, and look at how he manages his benefactors.
Oh, yes. The saga of the papal brief.
I have to admit, reading this part of the source material just made me laugh out loud, because it totally shatters this illusion that revered historical figures just glided through life on divine inspiration.
Right, they had to deal with paperwork just like us.
Exactly. So Don Bosco had this major financial backer, a benefactor named Louis Anthony Call, and to recognize his immense financial support, Don Bosco had been petitioning Rome to grant Call the title of Count.
A papal count.
Yeah.
Which is an honorary aristocratic title granted by the Pope. It was a massive social currency in the 19th century.
This is a big deal.
Huge. It was the ultimate way to reward a legacy donor.
But the source text dryly notes that the definitive papal brief-like, the actual official piece of paper making it happen, only arrived on July 19th after, quote, nearly a year of administrative delays and clerical errors in Rome.
Which is just classic bureaucracy.
Right. Think about how maddening that is. This guy is running a massive international network, and he's sidelined for 12 months because someone in an office in Rome misspelled a name or lost a file.
Well, we tend to think of the Vatican in this era as this monolithic, smoothly running spiritual authority.
Right.
But operationally, the Roman Catholic bureaucracy was essentially a massive, ancient operating system. It moved incredibly slowly and required just endless verifications.
It's like the 19th century equivalent of being put on hold by the DMV.
Exactly. Don Bosco is like a modern developer trying to push an urgent, critical update through a legacy system that requires a dozen different physical stamps.
Let me challenge this, though, because, why is he even bothering? He's trying to keep kids out of prison, build schools, and manage a massive societal crisis. Why spend a year fighting red tape so a rich guy can call himself a count? Is it just vanity?
Not at all.
Huh?
Because philanthropy operates on relationship management. And even deeply spiritual movements require earthly resources to function.
Right. Trade schools aren't free.
Exactly. Don Bosco understood that securing this title for Count Call wasn't just about stroking an ego. It was about validating Call's profound financial sacrifice for marginalized youth.
So as a structural thank you.
Yes. The title was the mechanism to show deep structural gratitude. Because if the funds dry up, the trade schools close. The kids go back to the streets.
Which makes his reaction on July 19th so revealing. Because the second that piece of paper finally clears the labyrinth of Rome and lands on his desk, what does he do?
He doesn't wait for his scheduled correspondence day, I'll tell you that much.
No, he doesn't.
On that exact same day, July 19, Don Bosco writes directly to Count Call, to deliver the joyful news.
The same-day turnaround, after a whole year of waiting in the dark.
It is brilliant donor management. Because look at the mechanism here. He acts as the ultimate shock absorber for his organization.
I love that phrase, shock absorber.
Right. He personally absorbs all the friction, the annoyance, the clerical errors, and the year-long delays of the Roman bureaucracy. But he only passes on the smooth, joyful resolution to his benefactor.
He just completely closes the loop the moment he has the asset in hand, making the donor feel like the absolute priority.
Yep.
You know, if we were to stop the deep dive right here, the portrait we have is of a highly effective, slightly ruthless political operator.
A pragmatic CEO and a cassock, essentially.
Totally. A guy who calculates when to delegate, when to show up in person to leverage an archbishop, and how to aggressively manage his major donors.
But the sources throw a massive curveball into that narrative.
They really do, because on that exact same day, July 19th, 1883, the very day the long-delayed papal brief finally arrives, another event takes place that completely shatters that cold, calculating image.
The reunion at the oratory.
Yeah, so Don Bosco attends a special reunion held for priests who were his former pupils. The text calls it a brotherly banquet.
A brotherly banquet.
And in the middle of this dinner, he leans over and whispers to one of them, Father Revilio, about his profound affection for these former students. He whispers that they are, quote, the apple of my eye.
Wow. Consider the sheer psychological whiplash of that day.
Right. It's crazy.
In the morning, he is finalizing a year-long political battle with Rome to secure an aristocratic title for a wealthy count. And then in the evening, he is sitting at a dinner table, whispering incredibly tender, vulnerable terms of endearment to the kids he pulled off the streets years ago.
Kids who have now grown into his colleagues.
Exactly.
Well, I'm cynical by nature, so I have to ask, is he just sweet-talking them? I mean, these former pupils are now the middle management running his schools and his operations. He needs them to keep the machine running, right?
It's a very fair question.
Okay.
But the historical record really points to the exact opposite. That vulnerability wasn't a management tactic. It was the entire engine of the operation.
So it wasn't just a manipulation.
Not at all. Everything we've discussed so far, the diplomacy with Castaldi, the agonizing patience with red tape, the strategic delegation in Faenza, those were just the vehicles. The profound, almost parental love he held for these young people was the fuel.
That is fascinating. So the diplomacy was just the necessary mechanism to protect and uplift the people he actually cared about.
Precisely. He didn't view these former pupils as metrics of success or mere cogs in an educational machine. He viewed them as family. To call a group of grown men the apple of his eye in a 19th century professional setting is stunningly intimate. And that deep emotional investment is exactly why the movement succeeded.
People will work tirelessly for a leader who genuinely views them as the center of their universe.
Absolutely.
But, you know, living with that level of intense emotional investment while simultaneously fighting bureaucratic wars and managing explosive expansion, I mean, that has to drain a person.
Well, completely.
The human body is just not built to sustain that kind of output indefinitely.
No, the physical toll is absolute. You cannot run at that high of an RPM for decades without the biological hardware eventually failing.
Which lands us on our final snapshot in this historical ice core. It is now July 19th, 1884.
Just 1 year later.
Exactly, 1 year after the brotherly banquet and the victory with the papal brief, and the tone of the source material shifts dramatically.
Because his health is collapsing.
Yeah, it's pretty dire. The sources note that his doctors and his inner circle are terrified he won't survive the summer heat of Turin. And we have to remember, 1884 Turin in July isn't just mildly uncomfortable.
No, it's a crowded industrial city before modern sanitation or air conditioning.
Right. The heat radiating off the brick and cobblestone was oppressive, and disease was a very real threat to someone in a weakened state.
So he basically has to leave the city immediately.
He departs for the cooler mountain villa of Bishop Philip Chiesa in Pinerolo. But the key detail here is how he leaves. He isn't barking orders or organizing the logistics of the trip himself.
Right, which is completely out of character.
Totally. The source specifically notes that Father Lemoyne and Father James Rufino accompanied him, essentially insisting that he go and rest.
The men he mentored are now the ones calling the shots.
It is the ultimate role reversal. The man who micromanaged the expansion into Faenza, who battled Rome for a year, who hosted the banquets, he is now completely at the mercy of his staff. The caretaker is being cared for.
It's a really profound moment of vulnerability, and frankly, it is the ultimate test of any leader's legacy.
How so?
Well, he built an organization that didn't just function on a spreadsheet. He built a community of profound care. So when his own physical strength finally gave out, the internal foundation he had spent decades nurturing, the very people who were the apple of his eye, stepped in to protect him.
They forced the CEO to step away because he refused to stop working.
Exactly. Allowing yourself to be managed by the people you once led is a massive act of trust. We started this deep dive looking at his external triumphs, managing bishops, securing titles.
Right, the flashy stuff.
But this 1884 snapshot reveals that his greatest triumph was actually internal. He cultivated a network strong enough to carry him when he could no longer carry it himself.
Wow. So let's just pull all of this together. We took a core sample of just one calendar date, July 19th, across a few short years, and it gave us an incredibly dense, layered picture of leadership.
It really did.
We saw the strategist carefully deploying a delegate to handle the Bishop of Fanz's anxiety, protecting his personnel. We saw the politician spending his personal capital face-to-face with Archbishop Gastaldi.
We saw the bureaucratic shock absorber, shielding Count Colley from Rome's red tape.
We saw the tender mentor at the brotherly banquet. And finally, we saw the frail human relying entirely on his friends to survive the Turin heat.
It is a masterclass in the contradictions required to lead well. You have to be shrewd enough to play the political game and vulnerable enough to fiercely love the people you are fighting for.
And that brings us to the real takeaway for anyone listening to this deep dive.
Yeah. When we look at history, or even when we evaluate our own careers, we are so often drawn to the massive milestones.
The big wins.
Right. We look at the ribbon cuttings, the finished buildings, the major promotions, or the big public victories. But reading through these highly specific chronological notes suggests something radically different. It suggests that a person's true legacy isn't found in the milestones. It's actually found in the mundane reality of their daily inbox.
The delays, the letters, the dinners.
Exactly. That's where the real work happens. So I want to leave you with a question to chew on today. If someone were to take a historical ice core sample of your life, if they pulled up your calendar and looked only at what you did on July 19th over the last 5 years, what would that vertical slice actually reveal?
Oh, that's a tough question.
What would the mundane details say about your real priorities, your approach to frustrating setbacks, and most importantly, who the apple of your eye truly is?
Because the calendar doesn't lie. It shows exactly where we spend our energy. I want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. I hope this look at Don Bosco has inspired you to think about the history and the legacy hidden in your own everyday schedule. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.